Welcome to another episode of Death and Resurrection, that death should be embraced. However, we still grieve when we lose someone. But is this grieving because of the separation of the loved one? Or is it because we blame God for this causality? So on the show tonight, we have a special show for you because we have an inspirational story of a young lady who recently lost her sister. And through her story, we're going to learn and understand that she took the Christian approach and understood what death really meant, that it has no end. So if you have your box of tissues, please bring them closer to you because we have an amazing show and inspirational show lined up for you tonight. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our guest on the show tonight, the number is 0416 551 292. Please send us your questions through a text or give us a call and speak to her on the show tonight. So let me introduce you to our wonderful guest tonight, Anastasia, Attia.
Hi Mina, how are you?
Hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. I know it takes a lot of courage for you to come on live TV and share your amazing story.
It's a blessing to be here and I'm really grateful, to be able to share this story of Chrissy.
Okay, so let's get familiar with you first. What do you do for work?
Okay, I'm a designer at a bank and just graduated from university 2 weeks ago actually, so thank God, and yeah. Okay,
so now let's talk about your sister. So let's get familiar and get to know about her more. In a few seconds, we're going to have a picture of her put up on the screen. So what was your sister's name and how old was she when she passed?
So Christine was diagnosed at the age of 17 years old with a really rare type of cancer. She recently passed away on the 13th. Passed away at a really young age, but her journey here on earth was complete and she's in a much better place now. So thank God for, allowing this. And Chrissy was a fashion designer. Before she passed away, she just graduated from a distinction in advanced fashion design and technology. So, yeah.
Okay. How old was she when she passed?
So she was 21 when she passed and 17 years old when she was diagnosed.
Okay, yeah. So she was very young.
Very young.
And you lost her recently?
Yeah, so she passed away on the 12th of September 2014, so that's actually, today marks 20 months when she, went to heaven. And the 12th of September really marks a really important day for our Coptic church because around that time we celebrate the Coptic New Year. Which is the Feast of Martyrs, and that really showed to me that she, through her suffering and her endurance, she was part of the martyrs that day.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And you were really close with your sister, so it must have been hard.
Yeah, we were best friends. Really, really close. We had mutual friends. We were doing everything together, spending a lot of time together. Whether it was going there or going to this place. But yeah, I know God took her for a reason. I probably will never know what the reason is, but I do know one thing, that she did bring a lot of people to Christ, and I'm really grateful for that, so thank God.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about her condition, because obviously you guys were aware of the possibility of her passing away because of the particular sickness that she had and the medical diagnosis. So how did you guys prepare for it, knowing that there was that great possibility of her to pass on?
Yeah. Well, apart from the doctors, telling us that with her diagnosis it was a really rare type of cancer and that it was a really high degree, but having the faith in Christ and knowing that His will is always the best will, just having again that belief and that hope that everything will be fine. And Chrissy would always be strong. She'd even make us stronger. So I think towards the end, we were really prepared in terms of, even from the first day she was diagnosed, it was really hard to accept the fact that she was going to pass. And I think a really big thing is that sense of acceptance. And once you have that sense of acceptance, you're able to let go and let God be in control of your life. That really helped a lot. I know Chrissy, towards the end of her journey, started reading this book. It's called Love Letters from Your King. And inside this book, every day she'd read a message, and it was a love letter from Christ. And like there were a couple of verses that really struck her, like towards the end. Like people would come over, visit her, and give her that same verse, and it was like it popped out everywhere, and it was just like a message from God. So there were two verses. There was Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope," and Isaiah 43. Where it says, you know, "You are precious in my sight. I have loved you and I have known you." So those two verses really exemplified the fact, you know, that God really chose Chrissy for a special reason. And obviously, like, we are all his chosen children. And, you know, we are very precious in God's sight. So I think, you know, knowing that and understanding that fact really brought us closer together. And yeah, I think that it was just that sense of acceptance. You know, being able to know that she is going to pass away, and you just have to be positive about it. And obviously, as I said before, know that God's will is always the best.
Yeah, but this was a 4-year process when you first found out and when she passed.
Yeah.
It must have been just hard, just living year by year.
Yeah.
Not knowing when, but knowing it's eventually
knowing eventually.
Yeah.
Well, there was about a year and a half that she was in remission, so we were obviously like thanking God so much for that. And then when it came up again, when she had a relapse, I think, you know, it was, and the doctors were like, you know, this is it, it's spread everywhere. And that was, I think that was when it started to hit us officially, you know. Back at the start, it was, yeah, okay, but it wasn't, like I was holding on to the fact, you know, that of hope that a miracle will occur or something. But, you know, he like, even for the treatment, like she went through chemotherapy and radiation, and like there were miracles, little miracles along the way that were just so big to us, like just a miracle that, you know, the chemo and radiotherapy would work. Like that's like the body would actually respond to that. That was actually a blessing, because some people go in there no matter what age, and, you know, the treatment doesn't work. So for us to know that it did work, and then she was in remission for a period of time, that really helped. But then when the relapse came again, then I think, you know, we had to start preparing.
So let's talk about your parents for a few seconds. How did they deal when they first found out of the news? And also, how did they prepare for it?
So Mum and Dad, you know, it was a shock. It was a shock to all of us. You know, just the word cancer that just came out. It's like, you know, so important to us, especially in our, you know, community. But then you realise that health is so important, and nothing, you know, nothing's going to be more important than your health. And Mum and Dad, you know, were shocked at the start, but then later on, you know, your faith, like their faith started to get stronger, and like so did mine. And, you know, through the whole parish priest and the church community, and, you know, having the body and blood of Christ just uplifts your spirituality, and, you know, that God is always by your side. Like God will never leave you. And like knowing that fact like helps a lot, because he's always by our side. Like he's holding us, you know. And he's guiding us in our daily lives.
I remember, and I had a conversation with your father, and it was just so inspirational. What he said to me was, "This is the will of God." Who the will of God? And he said it with so much conviction, and I saw in his eyes the power of the faith that he had. And he just, you know, he just said, it's up to us now to prepare ourselves. Yeah. It's going to happen. Yeah. So I can tell just by this conversation that he accepted it. And what amazed me the most, that he accepted that this is the will of God and did not question the will of God. And I found that to be amazing. And he just powered through it and was preparing himself for the moment.
Yeah, I guess like there are times where our faith is shaken, but, you know, like letting go and let God take control is just a really big thing that, you know, without, you know, if we didn't do this, I honestly wouldn't know where I'd be. Like there are only two ways that you can deal with, you know, with someone passing away, and it's either you come closer to Christ or you go away from Christ. And obviously going away from Christ, you're going to gain nothing, and you'll lose everything and gain nothing. But, you know, if you come closer to Christ, it would just make your life so much better and like so enriched, and knowing that Christ is like, God always has is always doing the best thing for us, you know, he will never leave us, as I said before, and yeah.
So support during this paramount. So whether it's from family and friends. So what kind of support did you get from your friends and your community?
Yeah. We were really, really blessed, and honestly, thank God that we had so much support, like Chrissy's friends, Chrissy's TAFE community, like I can't talk more about like Chrissy's determination, and like she would just, every time she'd go for treatment, she'd go straight to TAFE, and like that will, that strong will that she had, like that determination, that perseverance to balance her health life and her study life was just incredible. And till this day, I remember, like, you know, everywhere she went, she'd always talk about her study, like she'd want to finish her degree, she'd want to do this, she'd want to do that. So that her TAFE community really were supportive in terms of letting her achieve her goals. Also, obviously, the church parish, St. George Church, our beloved four priests, St. George, Father Marcos, Father Raphael, Father Matthew and Father Krolos, they would always come to visit Chrissy, and other priests from other churches as well. We were really blessed. Even till the very last moment, like Chrissy passed away in hospital that last night, and the whole room was full of just an immense amount of like peace and comfort. I honestly can't tell you how amazing it felt. Like, obviously, like Chrissy was bedridden, her health was deteriorating, but the sense of peace that was just filled in the room was like, I can't even describe it. Like, the moment we entered the hospital, all the priests came, the bishop even came that night to visit Chrissy. She was anointed with holy oil, and we literally prayed the whole Agbeya, like from night to morning, and the priests from the church. So I honestly couldn't be more grateful to have, you know, a really supportive community, and that really brought our St. George family close together, and, you know, that one body of Christ, you know, whether it was celebrating her 40th commemoration or her 1 year or anything to do with Chrissy. We even had a vigil the week after she passed away, and like people came and spoke about Chrissy and the experiences that they had, that like she was able to make them, like, change their life in a particular way. So
okay,
it was incredible.
I'd just like to remind our viewers, if you would like to ask Anastasia a question or even share some nice words with Anastasia for some support, please send your text or give us a call on 0416 551 292. So let's talk about the organisation UCAN. What are they about and how did they support you?
Yeah, so UCAN, it comes from the word youth cancer. It is an organisation that they build youth cancer centres for youth. So I think around 19 to 25 years old, or 17 to 25 years old, and it targets those people because the minute they are diagnosed, they're either in the children's ward or the adult hospital. And obviously Chrissy got diagnosed at the age of 17, and she was thrown with the adult, like with the old people in the hospital, and it was just really overwhelming, like, you know, to see elderly there, and like, you know, she's 17 years old being treated. So the aim of UCAN is to make a youth cancer centre for those people, so they're all together in the same boat. And you know, till today we are still ambassadors for UCAN. Like, I try and go help and support whenever I can. And the good thing about UCAN is that Chrissy was able to speak to people going through the same boat as her, and being able to do that is really good because, you know, someone else could understand Chrissy besides those people, because they know how the treatment is, they know how their body feels. So yeah, thank God, you know, going through the hospital organisations, we were able to get through to UCAN.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned earlier that 4 of your parish priests were there in support by her bed. So I want to ask, how was your parish priest, in particular confession father, how did he help you and guide you in preparation for her passing?
I think all the abunas, you know, tried to keep us strong, and it was whether, you know, to continue reading your Bible, to pray, to be thankful. Like, I know one of the abunas was, you know, telling us, you know, be thankful, especially on the day of the funeral, which I'll come to talk about soon. But you know, to say thank God for everything. You know, when someone comes to give their condolences, say thank like, you know, and and I feel like even today, the more times I thank God, the better I feel. Like I'm able to, you know, share Chrissy's story because, you know, God's given me so much peace and comfort, and it has allowed me to do that. So I definitely think the guidance from the priest definitely helped in, like, you know, going through this.
How about after she passed? What kind of guidance did they give you and help you through?
After she passed, you know, it was all about staying positive, thanking God for everything, knowing that, you know, God's will is always the best. And, you know, that idea of heaven, like being in heaven is just a different world from like being here on earth, and it's so different. It's just a different world, and the question, you know, is for us to be prepared just like Chrissy, and, you know, to learn from her and how she was prepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got one more question, then we'll go for a quick break.
Yep.
So this I found very interesting. At the funeral, you requested everyone wear white. What was your reasoning behind this? Mind you, I loved it and I thought it was beautiful. So I want to know, and I want you to tell the audience, what was your reasoning behind asking the guests to wear white at Christina's funeral?
Yeah. Well, first of all, like, I really don't like to say the word funeral. I really like to say wedding to Christ, because it was truly a wedding to Christ. Like, I can't explain, like, Chrissy planned everything from A to Z. Like, she planned the church decorations. She planned, you know, she wanted white lilies and white roses. She planned the white casket. What she was wearing inside, what she wanted inside. She even planned, like, the picture she wanted to have at the funeral. And I remember, like, I got it printed on a canvas for her. And Abuna Morkos was saying at the wedding to Christ that the picture represents Chrissy looking up to heaven. So she did choose it for a purpose. And, like, she even planned, like, the poem at the back that was distributed on the bookmark. Just, like, that poem's all about knowing that she's still there. She'll always be there every day of our lives. So I guess the reason why she chose white was to represent the purity, was to represent heaven, the love, the happiness, the joy. And honestly, I still remember making that eulogy and seeing the whole church in white was incredible. Like, it was truly a wedding to Christ. It really felt like heaven. It really felt like that positive atmosphere. And unfortunately, like, we do wear black on these occasions, and I really don't think there's a need. Like, sometimes when I go now to a wake or a funeral, I don't like to wear completely black, because Chrissy has taught me something. She's taught me that, you know, death is a happy thing in life. You know, we shouldn't be upset, and she wanted us to be happy. So, yeah, I think it was a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And I definitely did feel that heavenly feel when I was present there.
Yeah, definitely, and I did as well. Like, and just knowing that Chrissy was there during, like, her presence, we felt her presence there. It was incredible too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
Sounds good.
Just a reminder to our viewers, please, if you have any questions or you want to share some nice words with Anastasia, please send your questions or your beautiful words to 0416 551 292, or give us a call and speak to Anna tonight. Thank you.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.
Welcome back to Ask on CYC. So if you just tuned in, the topic tonight is losing a loved one. And we're talking about how to deal, and we have with us Anastasia Attia. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So let's talk about after the passing now. So after Christina passed, the few months after that, how did you and your family learn to deal with her passing?
Yeah, so at the start it was a bit difficult. You know, she wasn't physically there with us, but we knew she was in a better place, and that gave us a lot of comfort. My family and I also went to Egypt. We went on a Shepherd and Mother of Light trip with Abuna Krolos and a group from Sydney. And we went there and we served. We served the disadvantaged people in Egypt. And being able to do that was just amazing. Like, you know, seeing people who are going through worse things than we are. Like, we are so privileged in life that we have everything, and these people have nothing. But they're, at the same time, when, like, we ask them to pray, they're so thankful to God for what they have. And honestly, that brought so much peace and comfort to be able to thank God for what we have. So that really helped. I think, going there and serving was a great opportunity that we did, yeah.
Okay. So one was probably related to the question I just asked you now. After your sister passed, how did you deal with the hard time that followed?
Yeah, so I think back to, going and serving. Like, I think you have to do something outside of your original zone. Like, go out there, go serve, go find where people need help. And like, when you're helping people, it actually helps you, because like, after like someone passes away, what are you going to do? You're not just going to sit at home and do nothing. No, you have to do something useful with your life. And it's about a learning curve as well. Learning what we have in life, what others don't have. Being thankful for everything. I think as well, like, being positive is a great thing to do. Like, thank God I never had to, seek a psychologist or something, like, or a therapist, because I've never been depressed, and I really thank God for that, because I know a lot of people that go through something like this, and they just shove themselves in a room and in the dark, and they don't want to do anything. But I like being out there. I like sharing Chris's story, and sharing what you've learned from that individual just helps a lot. And you got to keep being positive and thanking God. And the more you thank God about His will, the better you'll feel.
Okay, so you always kept yourself in a positive environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always good, to keep a smile on your face. There was never a time where, I do have my moments where I'm down, but there's never a time where I've been depressed. So,
Yeah.
And obviously the guidance of your confession father and all the, the parish community and the parish priest helps a lot, because, if you don't have this, we're really blessed and thankful to God that we have these opportunities.
Okay. So the next question that came in from the audience, they're asking, how do we find God when a tragedy like that happens to us?
Where do you find God?
Because a lot of people, sorry, not a lot of people, but there are people that would blame God for this situation.
Yeah.
And would move the other way, move away from God.
Yeah.
So the audience member is asking, how do we find God? So...
Yeah, well, I think as I said before, to find, you have to dig deep. Dig deep so you can search for it. Dig deep so you can find it. And you'll find it at the end. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to do your bit and actually go that extra step. Go out of your boundary. Go out of your zone. Do something different. And try and seek God. Try and find Him. That verse that says, be still and know that I'm in God. Sit in front of the water and maybe thank God for, that beautiful scene that He's given us. I won't say it's easy, but to find God, I think Chrissy did, she did tell me before that she was going, and that helped me a lot, because I was able to prepare, and I think it just helps it's all about being positive, really. If you're going to be negative, then you're just going to drift away from God. But if you stay positive, you'll know why God does it. You'll know why God puts us in this perspective, and what blessings He has for us.
Yeah. And how about your parents? How did they deal with it after she passed?
Yeah. So my mum and auntie went on the trip to Egypt with Abuna, so that helped all of us. But the rest of the family, I think it was just, and knowing that God's will is always the best. And as I said before, you'll never find out, I probably will never find out the reason why He took Chrissy, but that sense of acceptance. And I think what we did as a family was that we let go and let God, and putting God in control, changes your whole perspective on life. And the moment Chrissy also let go and let God take control was when she found a sense of acceptance within herself as well, that she was going.
Did that help you guys, that knowing that your sister was accepting of God's will?
Absolutely, because it gave us so much comfort that she's ready. Knowing that someone is ready for the kingdom of heaven is a really big thing. And for her to be able to tell us that, we even saw when the priests were coming to give her communion, she'd have confession and just let out everything. And that was perfect, because it truly shows how we should live our life constantly, taking part of the sacraments, especially communion and repentance and confession. Really important.
Okay. Another question that just came in from an audience member is they're asking, my grandma's sister recently passed away, and my grandma has been depressed for the past couple of days. How can I comfort her and help her?
Tough one. I think being obviously by grandmother's side is definitely really important, and telling her like, you know, your sister's in a better place, Teta. Eventually, like one day you will soon meet her. And life here on earth, if you look at like a piece of string, like our life is like 1 millimeter of that string, but eternal life in heaven is like the rest of the string. So imagine having that life together in heaven. It's just like you just got to change that thinking, change the way you think. And, you know, obviously we all want to be there. So we'll all be there together eventually. I don't know, but I think that from my perspective, like that's what I would do.
Okay. I know your sister in those 4 years, she was suffering.
Yeah.
Cancer is a very strong disease. And
it is.
Like what they say, it's the sickness of
the saints.
Yeah. So did you feel as if her passing on was better for her in terms of suffering?
Like her passing away?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was better for her, but I think I don't know if it's better. Like, obviously, thanking God for what He's done really helped. And I don't know if I'd say that if it is better or not, but like that's up to God to decide. But He took it at the perfect timing, you know.
So she was taken to a better place, you'd say.
Exactly.
So taken away from the suffering.
Exactly, taken away from the suffering, and like till now, I'm still thankful. Like Chrissy was on an oxygen tank to the last moment, and I didn't want to see her continue suffering like that. Like I was really, really happy and so comforted that she passed away in peace. Like even though the suffering was really ill, and like I know one thing Chrissy prayed for was that, you know, to keep smiling in front of people and not to show her illness, her physical illness in front of everyone, you know. That was honestly a blessing, happy and be positive and joyful. Like people would tell her, like, Chrissy, I never even knew like you were on treatment. So I guess like that fact of, you know, that sense, yeah.
Okay. The reason why I say this because I talk from experience, because I know of someone who's been through that and they suffered a lot, and we prayed that God takes him away from this suffering, and our prayers was answered. So God took him away from this suffering.
Yeah. Well, like I guess I was praying and asking God, like God, take control over our lives and you do what is best. Like if you want to take Chrissy from suffering, fine. If you want to heal her, that's fine. Like I will be happy with either option. And, you know, praying to God, like, really comforted me because, like, just letting go and let God take control and putting God forward in our lives is very important.
Speaking of which, did you ever question God's decision?
Yeah. Look, I'll be completely honest. My faith does get shaken. But, like, as soon as I accepted the fact, then I knew that, you know, this is it. Like, it will happen. And, like, maybe at the start I did ask why, but I like, for now, I've never questioned God ever since her passing. I've just always accepted it, moved on with life, and know that His will is always the best. Yeah.
Okay. Another question that just came in from an audience member. They're asking, can you please tell us about a few lessons that Chrissy has taught her loved ones and friends?
I would say that Chrissy she had an amazing group of friends, and one thing she did teach them was that even towards the end with her pain and suffering, like, she put her pain behind her and she was talking about God's love to them. And you know how we are immersed with God's love and we have to show it. We have to, like, you and I have a mission here on earth, and her mission was to bring people closer to Christ. So I think the question for us would be, what is our purpose here in life? What are we aiming to achieve? Like, what is our goal? What are we trying to reach, you know? So I think that's one thing, like I personally learned from Chrissy, but in terms of what she taught people, I guess would forgive one another. Like when people were on the phone to her and like they had an issue with someone, like she'd always say, like, be friends, like love one another, like forgive them for what they've done. life is too short. And like Chrissy, one of her quotes were, life is too short not to be lived. And, use like your support network, like your church, your friends, your confession father, use them all as support networks.
Okay. So probably one of the key questions that I want to ask you tonight, what have you come to understand about death through the passing of Christina?
So I think with death, I wouldn't say it's a sad thing. It is a sad thing from the perspective that you will lose the person physically, but
The process of separation.
exactly, that process of separation and that. But then when you talk about it from the other perspective, that, it's an amazing thing because we'll all be there, like God willing, we'll all be in heaven together. So looking at that from that angle helps a lot because, death is a depressing state. But, if you believe that there is always, heaven as your goal, then there's nothing to be worried about. We shouldn't be worried about death because death is the start of a new beginning. It's the start of a new world with Christ,
And we recently just came out of Easter.
Exactly.
And we learned that through the death,
New life, the new resurrection, and through
Christ conquered death.
Exactly.
Okay. So what else did help you with the situation? And when I mean what else, besides the church and the parish priest and your communion friends, what else helped you deal with the situation? You mentioned earlier you didn't seek any counselling.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I didn't need to seek any counselling, thank God, because my whole parish church was there, the priests were there for me.
Did you get back into work straight away?
No, so actually the day of Chrissy's wedding to Christ, I actually got a call for a job. So during that time, I was spending every day with Chrissy, and I was really thankful for that. So, the thing I really learned throughout this journey is God's timing is always perfect. I can't be grateful enough that, He took Chrissy on the 12th of September. This is a time where our church celebrates, at the start of the show I said, where the church celebrates the Feast of Martyrs, and it really highlights, that the fact that she's part of them. And God, I honestly can't explain how enough, God's timing is just absolutely correct. Even that timing of that job that I had, why didn't I get it 2 months ago? Well, obviously because God wanted me to spend every minute with Chrissy till the very last moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, before I ask my final question for the show, do you know why I chose you for this show?
No.
For this topic?
No.
I chose you because I lived through every moment of Chrissy and her, after her passing, and I saw how you were, and I saw how you powered through it, and I saw how your family powered through it, and I thought it was very inspiring, and you were the true epitome of what being a Christian was like in terms of death. You understood what death really meant, and that's why I chose you for this show,
Thank
for this
you,
segment.
But I think definitely all the credit goes to God, and glory be to God for everything He's done, what He's done with Chrissy, and God only gives crosses to people who an amount can't really explain it, but the amount the amount of the cross He gives to specific people, and He did give Chrissy a big cross, and for us to be able to deal with it, that was a blessing to be able to accept the fact and move on with life, and that's what Chrissy wanted me to do. She said to me, Anna, I know I'm going, but I want you to be strong. I want you to, finish your degree. I want you to travel, stay positive for the rest of your life. And so thank God, really.
Okay. Actually, just got a question that just came in, so I'm going to ask that. On this show, it's about the audience, and we always give them priority. So the the question that just came in is, how can someone prepare for the passing away of a family member, for example, grandparents or parents, even though it's uncertain?
I think we all have to be prepared for our passing. So we always have to be ready for the kingdom of heaven. And if you're trying to make someone else prepare, maybe ask them questions what is our purpose here on earth? What are we trying to achieve? And if you fulfill that goal, and if you're here to serve people, if you're here to preach the word of God, do it. Our life is too short here on earth. No matter if you're 21 years of age or you're 85. Like, life is still too short, and you got to make the most of your life and always put God before you. Like, I know His Holiness Pope Shenouda III said, you know, always put God before you. Make God your first goal.
Yeah.
So I think by doing that and, you know, telling them how can we, like, you just got to prepare for it, like, in terms of make sure they're ready for, make sure they you know, they've had the body and blood of Christ, make sure they've repented and confessed. And doing all those little things definitely does add up, so we can all reach heaven.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so for my final question for the show, what advice would you give anyone who happens to find themselves in this situation?
Tough question, but I think what I've said before is your goal. So number one, your goal. You gotta set your goal. Even now, like, if you're still young, set your goal now. So then when you grow older, you work towards it. But don't work towards it when, you know, you're old. No, work towards it from now, while you're young, especially our youth. Our youth are very energetic, very, very lively. So go on a mission trip. Go help and serve people. Go preach the word of God. Show God's love. Like, empower people with God's message. I'll definitely say that. And I think the other key takeaway is you have to sit by yourself and think how God has actually made your life better. Like, I know with God, like, He granted Chrissy everything she wished for. She wanted to wish for her 21st birthday. She wanted to graduate from her degree, and she did. She got a distinction, which was incredible. And she also prayed that she won't look ill in front of people. So you have to see God's work in your life. If you can't see God's work in your life, you know there's a blocker, you know there's a barrier to it. So you have to overcome that barrier and see what's blocking it. You know, maybe your faith is shaken. Maybe there's something that's pulling you back, and that's what the devil tries to do. He tries to unloosen that bond, that strong bond we have with Christ. So we have to always keep God as number one.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. And thank you to our audience members who tuned in and asked their questions on tonight's show. I am Mina Ibrahim from your CYC studios in Sydney. Good night and God bless.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.